In this video, I'm going to give you the 5 steps to an 850 FICO score and the 1 secret hack that allows you to borrow more. And what's your reason for getting an 850 FICO score? Do you want to never get turned down for credit cards, easily qualify for a home, or just have bragging rights? Well, today I'm going to show you how to get your 850 FICO score if you follow these steps. Of course, in the beginning, we have to cover the basic steps like, applying for a credit card. And when deciding on a credit card, you're going to want to choose something like a Bank of America card, Wells Fargo, Chase, maybe something from your local credit union, and get your credit history established. And if you can't get approved for a traditional credit card, then you're going to have to get a secured card. So you're going to have to put $200 or $500, whatever amount you want to put down, and apply for a secured credit card so you can start building that credit history. And don't start thinking that credit card money is free money that you can just spend and then, oh my God, I have to pay it back. What do you mean? I thought this was like a free line of credit. No, it doesn't work that way. But I'll show you how to get an 850 FICO score so you can master the credit game. So after 6 months to a year, you're going to call your credit card company and ask them for an increase in line of credit. You've established your line of credit, you've been making payments on time, and don't be scared to ask for much more than what you actually think you'll get approved for. It wouldn't hurt to just say, hey, if I got $1,000, hey, how about $5,000? And they might say, sir, you've been approved for $2,000. Okay, fine, that's cool. We're making progress, right? Because we're going to do this again next year. Let's say it's on your birthday or Christmas. Just pick a date that works for you. The second thing is credit utilization. So you've already been making your payments on time, right? Good, because that accounts for 35% of your score. Now, credit utilization is going to account for 30% of your score. If we have something like a $1,000 credit line, ideally, we're really using something, more in that 10% or less. And I'll give you the trick a little bit later of exactly how to get to the 850 FICO score. So as you keep your credit utilization down low, it's going to show the credit card companies that you're making your payments on time. You don't actually need that much credit. And so a year later or so, they're going to go, okay, fine, obviously you've been responsible, you probably have enough cash on hand, and you're paying your bills as normal. Hopefully you're, maybe even using 10% and paying it off every month. But most of us, we might end up, charging up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%, and then go, oh my God, I'm kind of getting up there. And then we got to, start paying that stuff down. So when I was in the Army, I had a Bank of America credit card, and they gave me a line of credit, and I'm sure I probably, maxed it out or came close to it. And then when I got out of the Army, I ended up applying for a Discover card. And at that time, I found out my credit score was somewhere around a 720 or so. And anyways, I got more interested in the credit game, and I started looking into that kind of stuff, every year or so. Of course, when I applied for more credit, they'd say, congratulations, sir, your score is, X score. Okay, great. Well, it wasn't until about 2006 that I discovered myfico.com and, with Suze Orman. And anyways, it got me more interested in the credit game about how to increase my score. And from there, just continually building my credit profile. So how does this affect you? Well, what I'm really telling you is to apply for about 3 lines of credit. I had my Bank of America card, the Discover card, and a Sears card. Okay, that was the very beginning. And then after I got those credit cards, I went ahead and applied for an auto loan. Somewhere around 2003 or so, I applied for a truck loan for my Dodge Ram 1500. And then I was able to borrow like $17,000 something, for that truck. And that just kind of started my Auto FICO credit history. And a home loan, or figure out another way to get another trade line or something like that going. And then you'll start building your credit history. Basically what it is kind of like, it's almost like credit diversification, really. So what does responsible credit card usage look like? Well, for most people, they just go ahead and charge up their credit card, pretty much to like 50, 60, 70%, whatever, maybe even max it out. And they're like, oh, well, I'm making the payments, right? What does it matter if I charge up my entire credit line and then I'm making the payments? Well, don't forget, payments only account for 35% of your entire score. So you got to remember that the second point was credit utilization, and that accounts for 30% of your score. So you're going to want to keep that credit line actually down really low. And so what does that look like to you? Are you doing 50%? Maybe you've heard something around 35%, like a third or something. Well, that's not the way you're going to get to an 850 FICO score. But we'll give you the tips here in just a minute. And besides, the problem with charging up your credit line to the highest amount possible is that eventually you have an emergency and you run out. So you're stuck. So what does responsible credit card usage look like to me? For me, I use my credit card like a debit card, which means I don't charge anything on my credit card more than I can pay for cash. So not only am I paying the minimum payment as the minimum requirement, but I'm also paying down the total debt if I should happen to carry something, longer than a month. On my personal side of my life, I don't carry any debt. On my business side of something, I'm constantly reinvesting in my business. Maybe it's, buying some new tools and new office supplies, camera equipment, whatever it may be. It's an investment into my future. There are quite a few factors that go into calculating FICO scores, and I'm sure only the credit bureaus that have these FICO models, FICO 8, FICO 10, etc. I'm sure, they're the only ones that truly know how to figure out the exact number, to get to that 850. But I can tell you what I've done. And recently I went on to myfico.com in order to see, what was my credit score with TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. And of course, some of the credit card companies are using older FICO scoring models. Maybe it's, FICO 5, I think, but then there's definitely, FICO 8 and FICO 10. And I'm sure they'll come out with, a new model in the future as well. So the point is that with each credit card company using a slightly different FICO score model potentially, there's quite a variety of factors that goes into exactly how your score is calculated. And only you really truly playing with your credit card payments and utilization is really going to help you determine what your score is likely to be. So if you haven't reached an 850 FICO score, go ahead and start bringing down your balance. Let's say it's at 30%, well then get it down to 20% and see what that does. And then bring it down to 10% utilization and see what that does. But I'm going to give you the trick of exactly what I did in order to figure out how to maintain an 850 for like 9 or 10 months straight. So if you haven't reached an 850 FICO score yet, start doing things like bringing down your debt level. Let's say it's from 30% down to 20% and see what that score is. And then bring it down to 10% utilization and see how that affects your score. And then start bringing it down from there. And don't forget, I'm going to tell you the exact number of what worked for me to get my score at an 850 for 9 or 10 months in a row. And then I started playing with the credit, amount in order to get my score to go, what? Let's see what it takes to make my score go down 2 points. What does it take to make my score go down 10 points or 11 points? For those of you who may hate credit, there's one thing that I never do. I never close my credit cards. And you're like, well, I'm going to pay it off completely down to zero and I'm not going to use it. Well, that's not going to help you either, because I actually saw my score go down a few points because I didn't use any credit and I had a zero balance. And in fact, on my Discover card right now, there's actually a negative balance, which means they owe me money. Okay? So, of course, I did get an 850 FICO score this last month, surprisingly, but, with overpaying. But one of the things that I try to do is I'm actually charging on my card all the things that you might use a debit card for, and then I just go ahead and log online to the bank site or your credit card company, and I just go ahead and charge it, and then I pay it off, let's say, in about a week. And that way I can keep my balance, real low. So step 3 is payment history, okay? That accounts for 35% of your credit score. And one of the things that I do is I go ahead and set up all my credit cards, my house payment, the car payment, utility bills, right? Electric, water, gas, all of that stuff. Everything that I owe every month is set up on auto pay. So there is absolutely no way that I can be late on any of my payments. Which means that if I'm never late, they can't charge me anything like late fees. They can't raise my credit interest rate up just by accident because I forgot a payment this month, which has never happened. Oh man. So definitely one of the things you want to try to avoid is anything that's like 30 days late, 60 days late, 90 days late, collections, bankruptcies, charge-offs, repossessions, if I didn't already say that, like of vehicles and stuff. That is just absolutely crazy. If you've had any of those, you've been irresponsible, and now is the time to change that credit history so you can finally start moving forward in the future and get qualified to, buy the next car, buy your house, and so on. All right, so the fourth thing is having a good credit mix. Okay, we've talked about, the 3 cards that I had. Then I ended up getting my truck purchase. And, later on I ended up buying another truck. And then I ended up buying my house. And then I ended up buying, another truck and all of this stuff over a period of time. And so they want to see, do you make your payments, as scheduled? So that, having that payment history, which we previously talked about, and having this all set up on an auto pay, if you want a no-fail way of getting to somewhere near like an 850, no one can guarantee that you're going to get there because there's a lot of variable factors of how you operate your life. But all I can do is speak from experience. So when you end up going into the auto dealership to get a vehicle loan, one thing that I suggest is getting a vehicle that's 3 years old. Not only has it taken a massive amount of depreciation, but of course your payments will be less. And when you're applying for credit, sitting there in the credit office, and they say, "Congratulations, sir, ma'am, you've been approved for 5.6 whatever percent," or maybe even it's a ridiculous number higher than that. I suggest saying, "Oh my God, that's just so high." And then they'll go, "Okay, well, let me see what we can do. Let's go ahead and look into a couple other companies." That's fine. So you wait a few minutes. You look at you're waiting for them to get back to you, and they tell you, "Okay, well, congratulations, you've been approved for 3.5%. Well, you know what? Sounds pretty good, because trying to get some 0.0% interest rate might have some hidden fees and stuff. I've never personally got a 0.0. It sounds like some introductory offer if you buy a new car, and there's incentives and a lot of other stuff that goes on the back end of car dealerships that you're probably not aware of. But nonetheless, so my car is a very expensive car, and I ended up buying it for probably, what was it? Maybe a third of the price. So maybe not quite a third, but it was pretty darn cheap. And anyways, how could I say no at that price, being 3 years old and 22,000 miles? So the one thing that has made my credit score go way up and allowed me to use more of my credit without actually hurting my credit is every single year I called in, especially in the beginning 10 years. I called in every single year and said, "Hey, Discover Card, can I get a credit line increase?" And they'd say, "Oh, congratulations, sir, you went from 3,000 to 6,000 and 6,000 to 8 or 9. They kind of had some small increments. Bank of America has done a much better job with the increase in line of credit. I forget what it started off out at, but it might have been, $2,500, and then it was, 5,000, then, 10,000, and then 12,000, and I think we might have got up to, 18,500 and 22,500 and then 24,500. And recently, this last Christmas, I called in and said, "Hey, how about a credit line increase?" And they're like, "Well, what do you need it for?" I'm like, "I don't need it for anything, really. I'm just playing the credit game." And so they're like, "Okay, sir, well, what's your income?" So I told them my income. And they said, "Okay, well, we'll look into it." And the representative lady was just chit-chatting with me. We're just having a nice conversation for a while. It felt like a half an hour, but who knows. But anyway, she got, back to me about my credit approval stuff, and she said, "Congratulations, sir, you've been approved for $30,000 on this one card." Okay, fantastic. Have a nice day, right? So, anyways, what's the point there, right? I applied for more credit every single year, and it slowly went up a little at a time. And what this did for me was, if I wanted to charge, back in the day, right, I got, maybe it's a couple $1,000 or something like that. And if you charge up $1,000, you're at 50% utilization. But if I have a $30,000 line of credit and I'm literally charging, $100, $200, $300, $400, probably the highest I've seen my actual amount owed is about $750 roughly. And I pay that stuff off basically every week. It's not really on a schedule. It's just I'm, randomly checking in with my bank, app, and I'm just going, you know what, I need to transfer some money from here to there and keep this below. So what's the percentage, right? Okay, so if I keep my balance between basically slightly above, and I'll get back to this, but if I keep my balance slightly above 0% to 1%, I've maintained an 850 FICO score for 9 or 10 months in a row. If I have my credit score between 1% and 2%, it can kind of vary between that 850 and maybe like an 848. I have seen it drop down to an 840 or 839, but I'm not sure if I was somehow missing when they were reporting the credit card stuff. Like if I got up to that 750, okay, well 750, out of the $30,000, or actually back then it was probably more like that $24,500 credit line. How much of that credit card was I actually using? I think it was like maybe potentially around 3%, so that gives you an idea. How much does 1%, 2%, 3% matter? Well, 1%, you're probably golden, right? 2%, you're kind of on the edge of having it drop down from 850. 3%, might get you right down that 10 points lower. Well, what happened when I applied for a home equity line of credit? Well, I had an 850 before I applied for my home equity line of credit, and then I went ahead and checked it afterwards, and it dropped down to 839 or 840. Now, so that's, so what happens, right? But then, of course, a month or two later, it went up to an 850 again. So I knew I was good. Well, hopefully by now you've seen that credit score breakdown where it talks about the 35% payment history, 30% credit utilization, 10% credit mix, and so on. And that should help you get started